All of Wales at this point is nuclear free, and they've said no to putting nuclear weapons on their soil. Well, what does this mean for Somerville? This isn't a very important question, of course. How we would outline the campaign is hazardous waste through the city. And this would mean by railroad or by the highways, whether it's Route 93, McGrath, or any other major transportation routes. And again, I think this fourth point might be the most relevant for Somerville, since I think we all know what hazardous wastes are like here. And the other part of this program is that we can link up with other communities. Right now, Cambridge is involved in its own Nuclear-Free Cambridge campaign. And by linking up with other communities, we can send a powerful message to Reagan and the government in Washington of our refusal to participate in the arms race and waste our resources. And this campaign can be a both concrete and winnable campaign that people from all over Somerville can be part of. The second proposal is around peace education. And already there's some work being done through the Nuclear Education Project that's involved in that. But the Planning Committee for the Speak Out has talked about really making this an important issue, like this event in Somerville. It needs to be focused not only on children, but adults, whether it's through adult education or through the religious community. We've seen that one of the greatest resources in Somerville is through the churches. And this would be a great opportunity for ministers all over Somerville to really begin educating their congregations. But again, this is only the beginning, and a lot more work needs to be done. The third proposal, and possibly the most relevant for Somerville, and again, we'd really like to hear your comments on this, is what we're calling a campaign for a fair budget. And the thinking behind this is that we really need to focus on what's happening in Somerville in terms of the budget. We need to find out what the city is paying to the national government for military spending, as well as what individuals in Somerville are paying out of their own taxes. And what this would do, and what we're thinking about, is having something along the terms of the Speak Out. But this time, we would invite all the local officials and political leaders to be here to listen what people are saying. And this time it would be a real switch. Rather than the usual rhetoric that we hear, and we make our comments and they don't hear it. This time we would ask them to be here formally, whether it's local representatives, state representatives, or national, that they really need to hear what Somerville people here are saying. The other part of this is really to focus on what is now and what could be for Somerville if the national priorities were changed. What would this mean in terms of human needs and housing and all the budget cuts that we've been talking about today? And Somerville can't rely on other corporations that some cities do to put kickbacks into the budget. I mean, we need to really focus on the national priorities and getting that money back in here. And we need to look at the employment picture, how defense spending is actually reducing jobs, not increasing them, as Reagan would like us to think about that. And again, these kinds of budget hearings are going to be going on in other communities in Boston, and it's something that Somerville can really do and really take action on. Again, these are three proposals. We'd really like to hear your comments about them and other proposals from the floor. And any of these kinds of things that we do to take action are obviously not going to be easy. And as individuals and as single, small groups in Somerville, we're not going to be able to do a whole lot. And the only way that we're really going to make any significant difference is to join together. And join together like we've done today, as I said, with over 30 Somerville groups coming together, that we can really make a difference in this. And I think people are no longer waiting around for officials to make their decisions for them, to engage in negotiations that are not making any difference at this point, whether it's around the military budget or the freeze or whatever. I mean, people really need to take action. And people need to stand up and say that our resources have been used against us for too long. So we need to take the next step, and we need to join together, and we need to put these proposals into action. And lastly, we need to demand that our priorities be acted upon now. We really urge you to consider these proposals, discuss them, come to the meeting on March 28th, 7:30, and be there and continue to discuss these in your own groups and really join together to make this a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hello? Thank you, Judy Fryworth. Okay, now you can begin to form the lines again. Specifically, I have some names that I want to mention that I'm hoping to hear from. We still have some folks. Can you all hear? We still have some folks that have been instrumental in sponsoring or endorsing this event that we want to have a chance to speak. And so I'm going to be calling on Dick Bauer of Sun, Judy Ullman of the Community News, Tom Kepler of the Clarendon Hill Presbyterian Church, Paul Duhamel of the Multi-Service Center, Gary Gartland of the Somerville Boys and Girls Club, Steve Linsky of the Citizens Party, and Carl Canetta of Mobilization for Survival. So, why don't you start?
I'm Dick Bauer. I'm here today on behalf of Somerville United Neighborhoods. When Pat Jalen spoke earlier, she mentioned that one of the things that's happening educationally is that test scores show that our ability to think and reason has been dropping. I suspect probably that President Reagan doesn't think that's such a bad thing. I put it to you that our ability to think and reason is the major thing and maybe the only thing that stands between us and nuclear annihilation. I'd like to give you a real quick quiz to see whether we still have the ability to think and reason. One of President Reagan's main civil defense planners says that if we had enough shovels, everybody could just dig a hole in their backyard and get down inside the hole when it was nuclear war, and we'd all make it through safely. You tell me, is he right or is he wrong? Vice President Bush said during the presidential campaign that we could fight a nuclear war and we could win it. Is he right or is he wrong? President Reagan says that we need to spend more money for war and less money for human services. Is he right or is he wrong? You and I here today can work for peace, or we can sit back and wait for war. We have a choice. We can choose death or we can choose life. Which one is it going to be? On behalf of Somerville United Neighborhoods, I'm proud to be here today to sponsor this Speak Out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Okay. Paula? Is it Paula? Paula Sullivan?
Excuse
Paula,
me.
can you try to maybe say something about what you just heard about proposals, if you can think of something about that you'd like to say? What was just said before from the podium? If you have something to say about that too, you can add that.
What?
Just say whatever you want to say.
My name is Paula Sullivan. I'm from the Mystic Learning Center. If I were magic, I would make it so there would be no war, and everyone would get along. Thank you.
Okay, let's go over here.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and I live in Somerville. Guess I'd like to remind you all that April 15th is slowly or fastly approaching, and I'm not from the IRS, and write that. Please say that it is your money they're using, and you will have no more of it. There's just no way. Thank you.
Thank you. That could be interpreted to be a vote for a fair budget campaign, I gather. I want to remind people that as you're coming up, that we are specifically interested in your responding to the three proposals that you've heard, which are basically about a nuclear-free Somerville, a and peace education, and a campaign for a fair budget. So if you could try to respond to what you heard from Judy, we're real interested in your ideas about those proposals. Okay. Okay. Why don't we go
Hi.
over there?
Hi, my name is Linda Starr, and I'm from the Mystic Learning Center. Why should we have bombs when we don't need them? Because they killed a lot of people in our country that we loved a real lot. Thank you.
Over there?
Thank you.
Thanks. If you're not going to address the
I beg your
thing,
pardon.
then we
What
should
I'd
make
like-
it very brief. 'cause
Okay,
we have a
I'm
time
sorry. What
problem.
I'd like to say is that I would be very happy to have Judy Fryworth call our office so that the appropriate people can talk to her and respond to what the conference has been about today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the information. Okay. Why don't we go to this side now?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Machel from the People Against Annihilation, and we have a few projects going ourselves, some of which overlap with things that have been mentioned by the Speakout Committee. One of the ones that overlaps is the Nuclear Free Somerville campaign, which we haven't started on yet, and we're real delighted to hear that a lot of people are thinking about that, because that's something that we can't possibly do all by ourselves. A project that we're working more immediately on is the rejection of the crisis relocation plan for Somerville. If you all know, we're going to have a little vacation in Kennebunk, Maine, in the event of a nuclear catastrophe, provided we can get there. Well, we're trying to overturn that plan, and we're having hearings in the aldermanic chambers at Somerville City Hall on April 5th. And there's some information on a table in the back of the room for anyone who's interested. We're also doing a series of study groups to educate people of Somerville about the problems of nuclear weapons and our responses to them. We're going to study both the hardware and our own emotions. And everybody is welcome to come to those. People are also invited to our meetings of the People Against Annihilation on the first and third Wednesdays of every month. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on this side now, and I'd like to hear from Judy Ullman of the Somerville Community News and one of our sponsors.
Hi, this is just a short announcement and really no specific comment on the campaign suggested here, but an offer to use the community news as a way of debating, informing, and discussing any campaign and action that we do take now.
Judy Ullman of the Somerville Community News. You, sir.
Ronald Reagan says, peace through strength. How about peace through truth? Or strength through peace? From the Greater Boston Committee for American-Soviet Friendship. And if we had peace and friendship with the Soviet Union, this nightmare would disappear. The thing is that we don't have it. And that we should have it. The American people have too much in common with the peoples and the struggles of the Soviet Union. Since 1917, we've had foisted on us by our ruling class the myth of the Soviet threat. It never has existed, and it never will. The Soviet people are built differently, and they're learning differently. In World War II, we liked the Soviet threat because it was on our side, and they took the brunt of Hitler, and they turned him back at Moscow before even Pearl Harbor. They lost 20 million people in World War II. They also lost 20 million people in World War I. No country on the face of this earth has suffered from war like the Soviet people. They want peace. It's as simple as that. In 1945, when we dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it helped to end World War II, there's no doubt about that, but it was a very cruel way to do it and unnecessary, and it was a political tactic to be used against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union says, you've got them, please, let's put a cap on them, let's not go any further in this direction. The United States government used it against the Soviet Union many, many times as a threat. As a matter of fact, they invented more hideous bombs as the Soviet Union caught up in defense, because what else would they do? The question is that we find ourselves at this point now when we have an accident out there waiting to happen in many, many directions, from bacteriological, biological weapons, and all kinds of hideous nuclear threats. The idea is that this United States government, what is being foisted on the American people now is the equality of guilt theory, where they are equally guilty, and this is simply not true. Their game is to play catch up. And as in a special session on disarmament in number 1 in 1978, and again on June 12th of this year, they pleaded for a freeze. They pleaded for a no-strike declaration by the United States government. And what was the answer? Nothing but a tremendous propaganda blast against the Soviet Union and captive nations and all that kind of thing. The question is that we must insist that our government sign SALT II. Our best minds in America worked for 7 years to develop a process, SALT I beginning with Richard Nixon, and SALT II, developed by the best minds of America, should at least be ratified by the United States people. And we should insist that we have real arms reduction, not this bullshit that's going on in Geneva today with all of these war hawks. We must insist that we fund our social programs with the savings from the reduction of taxes. We must insist on freedom from fear for myself, my children, and my grandchildren. We have got to eliminate this fear permeating the society.
Thank you.
And we want peace and friendship with the Soviet Union. We want jobs from the increased trade, and we want survival.
Thank you very much. Okay, can I ask if a few people are here that would like to hear from Tom Kepler from the Clarendon Hill Presbyterian Church, if you could come up. Thank you.
I'm Tom Kepler, pastor of the Clarendon Hill Presbyterian Church right around the corner from here. I was just observing this morning, I think it was, that if a pastor goes to his or her congregation and says, let's study what the Bible might say about whether I can kill my next door neighbor, they would laugh and say, that's absurd, we know perfectly well what the Bible says. But if we say, let's find out what we can about killing 60 million people with one push of a button, then they will say, well, we really have to take time to study that issue. Our inconsistencies are rather amazing, aren't they? However, I must point out that the churches, most of the denominations of this country have come out very strongly for the nuclear freeze and other statements of deep concern for disarmament and for the situation in which the world now finds itself. And I'd like to point out, too, that our church right around the corner was one of the very first to sign the nuclear freeze, all the members of the congregation, 2 years ago. I want to make one other observation, which is that it is sometimes felt that the matters of disarmament, especially of nuclear freeze and so on, are very complex because they involve so many things. But I think that they are really not so complex. I think it is a very, very simple matter. God has given life. God has not given us permission to take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom Kepler, for Clarendon Hill Presbyterian Church and one of this event's endorsers. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a couple of people over here that are waiting to speak, and then I also want to encourage a couple of others who have either sponsored or endorsed this event to come forward. And that would be if Gary Gartland is here from the Somerville Boys and Girls Club, or Paul Duhamel of the Multi-Service Center. Those are two people we'd like to hear from. Otherwise, Steve Linsky of the Citizens Party and Carl Coneda of Mobilization for Survival. But first, let's hear from this gentleman here.
Hi, my name is Dan Cohen. This is my friend John Levine, and we're very interested in peace education. And so we're going to have a little spontaneous peace education about what's legal and what's illegal. It's illegal to rip off a payroll. It's illegal to hold up a train. But it's legal to rip off $1 million or $2 million that comes from the labor that other folks do. To plunder the many on behalf of the few is a thing that is perfectly legal. If you fashion a bomb in the kitchen, you're guilty of breaking the law. But
Peace education. Thank you. Okay. Any of those people that I mentioned here, Steve Linsky, Carl Coneda, Gary Gartland, or Paul Duhamel? Oh, hello. What's your name?
Rachel.
Okay, speak right into the microphone.
No bombs allowed. Ronald Reagan is bad.
Steve Linsky from the Citizens Party.
I'm Steve Linsky from Hall Ave in Somerville. And representing the Citizens Party of Massachusetts, I have to say that we're all very proud to be endorsers of this event because the Speak Out and what's left of it is the kind of thing that typifies what the Citizens Party is all about. About 3.5 years ago, in an event similar to this, in a process similar to this, the Citizens Party was born. And it was born with the basic, very simple idea what this Speak Out's about, what the Freeze Movement's about. And that is, it was time, finally, to stand up and speak out and say, there are things happening in this world that we have to take some action on. And we can no longer wait for the two major parties to finally come around to the consensus of the issues that were before us. And I speak of course, the threat of nuclear annihilation, the full participation of men and women. And that's from the bottom to the very top of this party is 50% women participation and 50% male participation. And I don't think you can say that of any party. Once again, we're real proud endorsers of this event. And we hope that come election time each year, that people can join us. I mean, we basically look for people to run. You know, we don't need lawyers all the time to run for public office. There are a lot of other people, and a lot of people who are here who had things to say that are just as good candidates as any other people who run. And it's about time that we, instead of just taking what's the best of what's offered, to take the best of what we possibly have. So we invite you to participate with us, and please, on your way out, take one of our pieces of literature. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Linsky of the Citizens Party and one of the Speak Out endorsers. There will be two more speakers, one from the right and then Carl Canedo of Boston Mobilization for Survival will speak on the left. That'll be the last speaker of the Speak Out, and I will turn the microphone back over to Alan Krulik, who will introduce the final musical event of the day, Roger Rosen, and we will be ending the Speak Out at that point, or soon thereafter. I want to remind people that there will be a follow-up meeting of this event on March 28th at 7:30 p.m. at the Old Firehouse Community Center, 165 Broadway, at the corner of Cross Street. It's between McGrath Highway and Sullivan Square. We will be following up on the fine work that this committee and community of Somerville people has done on the nuclear disarmament question. Okay, to this gentleman in the sweater on the right, introduce yourself and say what you will.
Hello, my name is David. I hope you can all hear me out there. I'd like to spend a minute or two to respond to the proposal put forward to make Somerville a nuclear-free zone. Following few months in the next year, it will make a difference and it will be heard. Other communities will join you. And when this country is a nuclear weapon-free zone, it'll be very difficult for an administration to legitimize what it is doing. And the people of this country will have made a difference and will have promoted peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking to the issue. Carl Caneda of Boston Mobilization for Survival, one of the Speak Out sponsors.
I just want to say a couple of words about why Mobilization supported this event and helped to build it, and also to make some observations about what we saw happen here today. We're an organization that's committed to issues of basic human survival, basic community survival, and today we heard people talking about doing something about the threat of nuclear war. We also heard a lot about people working on the threat of a different type of war, not the war that might be, but the war that is already underway. In a sense, they're dropping atom bombs on our neighborhoods every day. When we think about 10 to 15 million people unemployed, there's certainly as much misery in that as there is in an atomic bomb. There is a declared war. It's not a war between the Soviet Union and the United States. It's a war between people like us and the people at the top, the people who make the decisions to build these weapons, who make the priorities about where to spend our money. Today we've heard people begin to clarify that point, that the war is already underway and that we intend to do something about it, and that's a very important thing. I think sometimes it feels easier to talk about how we feel about war, ideas about what we think should be done, and then we begin to wonder, at least I begin to wonder, about whether we can really do something about it, whether we have the resources. So I've got a couple of observations based purely on what I heard today. Well, first of all, I don't know how long Reagan's been in office now, too long, huh? But I've listened to that administration now for whatever it is, 2 or 3 years. I mean, I don't do it intentionally. I really can't seem to get away from it. Now, these are people who believe that trees pollute, and today, in the short space of several hours, I've heard more intelligence expressed here than I have heard in 3 or 4 years of the Reagan administration. That's encouraging. That's encouraging, because we're not talking about a lot of experts in the sense of people who have the specialized degrees and are recognized in high circles. We are talking about the intelligence that is growing out of the grassroots, and that makes for a very powerful movement. The other observation I want to make is that nothing that happens in this country, whether it's good or bad, can happen without us. Some people have made that observation. The taxes can't be collected without us. The garbage can't be collected without us. Nothing that happens here can happen without us. We're not nuclear powered, but we have brain power and we have muscle power. We have the money in our pockets, and it's not just the people in this room. It's not just Somerville. It's Somerville 100 times. It's Somerville 1,000 times. It's Somerville 1,000,000 times over. When we all get mobilized, when we educate ourselves and our communities, when we mobilize ourselves and our communities, then we can begin to change things. We have leaders who are very impressed and fascinated with weapons that, well, most of us probably don't completely understand. I certainly don't know how these things work. They're fascinated with kilotons and megatons and gigatons and what. I think that sometimes we're fascinated by these things. Sometimes we're a little cowed by these things. But when we organize and mobilize 1,000, 1,000,000 Somervilles, then I think we can face the people with the bombs with a power. We can face them with a power that they won't understand. And I think what they'll have to realize is that with all of their megatons and with all of their kilotons, they simply are no match for us. Thanks.
Thank you. In just a moment, I'm going to turn the microphone back to the MC, Alan Froelich. Before I do that, I want to remind people that coming up is some more music, and I invite you to come gather closely. Come gather into the front where you can hear well and see the performer, and come right up front. And afterwards, there will be a raffle, a much advertised raffle for a 10-speed bike. So there's plenty to stay for. And now, Alan Froelich.
Thanks, Walter. Thank you for sticking with us. As you all know, we're running a lot longer than we expected. We will be finished in, if you will, and many of us here at different ages probably harken back to our participation in different movements, but one thing that's always kept this kind of a movement together has been its faith in its culture and its faith in its people power. So I think we'd be remiss if we did not end our particular time together today with some music. Our musician, Roger Rosen, is someone who I've known for several years, and I've heard him many, many years ago, and I'd like to introduce him now. He's going to sing a few songs, and then there'll be some raffle and some closing announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Rosen.
You got some sound here? Yes. Thanks, Alan. I'm going to invite you once more to move up to the first few rows. Will the folks in back
come on a little bit closer here, folks, if you can. Why not?
Let's make this a warm finish.
Yes. Politics always needs you diehards.
Now that we're down to the hardcore, let's get to know each other. Everybody come up to the first few rows. Let's have no stragglers back there. Come on. This fellow with the glasses, would you come up front? Embarrass you into it if I can't do it any other way. I want to see who I'm singing to. How about this young fellow over here? Would you come up front, please? This first song is one that was written by a New York City songwriter named David Michael Roth. It's called Next Door Neighbor. The moving vans were pulling into town last week, loaded with 100 brand new friends. They've been looking for a place to live for quite some time, but just where they'll settle down, that all depends. The problem is they have been known to be explosive. They cause commotion every hour of the day. Oh, Mayor, won't you call our nearest congressperson? 'Cause I don't think we ought to let them stay. Don't want a missile to be my next door neighbor. I don't know of anyone who would. They're messy, they stay up all night, they're noisy, and if they come, there goes the neighborhood. Try that with me. Don't want a missile to be my next door neighbor. I don't know of anyone who would. They're messy, they stay up all night. They're messy, they stay up all night. They're noisy, and if they come, there goes the neighborhood. Well, our new neighbors, they are government supported. Everything they need, they get for free. I might remind you all that we're the ones paying for Mr. MX and his Mrs. Miseries. They used to say our little city was a melting pot, shining model of democracy. Well, if the new neighbors have an argument, we're all involved, and a melting pot's exactly what will be. Don't want a missile, don't want a missile to be my next door neighbor. I don't know of anyone who would. I don't know of anyone who would. They're messy, they stay up all night. They're messy, they stay up all night. They're noisy, and if they come, there goes the neighborhood. Well, I am not unsympathetic to the homeless. So if we've got to have them here at all, oh, Mr. Driver, take your moving van to Washington. Park those suckers right on the Capitol Mall. Don't want a missile, don't want a missile to be my next door neighbor. I don't know of anyone who would. They're messy, they stay up all night. They're messy, they stay up all night. They're noisy, and if they come, there goes the neighborhood. One more Thank you. My friend John Bell, who's a nuclear disarmament activist from New York City, will be doing a concert at Wheelock College on March 19th. If you're interested, you can ask me about it later. I'll be sitting in with him for a few songs. If you've enjoyed the music here, I'm sure you'll like his music. I'm going to do one more song for you. This is my favorite nuclear disarmament song, and it comes from the Georgia Sea Islands. It's a traditional song. It comes from the 18th or 19th century. I don't know when exactly. It goes like this. Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Try that. Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? As I sing each line, you can answer it back to me. I'll sing, ain't you got a right? You sing right back to me, ain't you got a right? 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 You got a right. Ain't you got a right? You got a right to the tree of life. We come from a distance. We come from a distance. We come from a distance. We got a right. We got a right to the tree of life. Well, rocky was the road, and dangerous the journey, dangerous the journey, and we got a right, we got a right to the key of life. You can tell all my sisters, you can tell all my brothers, you can tell it to the world, tell it to the world about the tree of life, about the tree of life. Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Our lives will be sweeter. Our lives will be sweeter, 'cause we got a right to the tree of life. Let's have a big finish here. Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right? Oh, you're sounding pretty. Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't we got a right? Ain't we got a right? Ain't we got a right? Ain't we got a right to the tree of life? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roger. A lesson to those people who feel that they should leave meetings early. We're just about finished, except to say that no matter what rights you feel you have, they have to be protected, and that takes work. And the most important thing that we have to do from now on is to go forward. We can't stop here. So it is incumbent upon us, myself, members of the Planning Committee, to remind people here to sign up on the registration table so we know who you are. We want to go forward ourselves, but we do need help. We need more ideas. We need more people power. So the meeting on Monday, March 28th at the Firehouse on Broadway is essential for us to go forward. It's essential for us to use the Speak Out as a departure point, not as a event which we, as much as we enjoyed, we feel is the closure, because it's not, because those rights to life have to be protected and they have to be worked for, because unfortunately there are people who are undermining them even as we stand here and share with one another. One good way to get through life, by the way, is by bicycle. And we have been selling raffle tickets, and it's now our opportunity to give back to you. We're going to have a drawing right now, and if you're not here, don't worry, we'll get in touch with you. Somebody is going to win a bicycle courtesy of Ace Wheelworks. And how do you want to do this? We have someone come up and, hey Sal, why don't you come up and choose the winning ticket? Sal's a politician, so it's completely honest.
Sal, let's,
I'm sorry, was it? Did you know that I meant the old firehouse, not the real fire station? Cross Street and Broadway, it's the old firehouse. It's been transformed into a community center, okay? So if you go to the firehouse, they're not going to know what you're talking about. So it's the old fire station on Broadway. And now we're going to have Sal dip into the raffle box here and choose a lucky winner.
now at the stroke of 5, the lucky number. I just want to give this one shuffle so my relatives and friends get on the top here, so. It's the cleanest raffle you ever see. And now, Salvador, if you will. Oh, God.
John Sims, 15 Mifflin Place, Cambridge.
John Sims, 15 Mifflin Place in Cambridge.
He's not here. Let's draw again. He'll be contacted. He'll be contacted. Okay. That about wraps it up. Again, we thank you for coming. Please do us the favor. Yes, we do have to clean up the place. We've got to repair everything that we've done here, take down everything, put everything together. Now, the meeting is at 8 o'clock. I'm sorry, the meeting's at 7:30 on Sunday. Also, the videotape. Monday. Okay. The videotape of the Speak Out can be seen on your cable station. The time is 8 o'clock Tuesday, March 22nd. Okay? And please don't forget to sign up on the registration table. Just leave your name and your number so we know who you are and we can bug you and get some help from you in the future. Thank you once again for coming. Bye-bye.